You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Welcome back to Business of Drinks. I'm Scott Rosenbaum.
And I'm Erica Ducey. Today we're diving into one of the most prolific growth stories in beer right now. We're talking garage beer.
If you happen to catch a recent Wall Street Journal piece by Laura Cooper, you know the headlines. The article titled "The Kelce Brothers Garage Beer Company is now worth $200 million" laid out just how quickly this brand has gone from regional novelty to a national powerhouse.
And we've got the TLDR for you. Here are the key points. So Garage Beer, backed by Jason and Travis Kelce, just closed its first institutional funding round at a $200 million valuation. The deal brought in Durational Capital, the private equity firm known for consumer plays like Bojangles. And as part of the investment, Constellation Brands' former beer chief, Bill Hackett, has joined the board.
On the number side, CEO Andy Sauer told the Wall Street Journal that the company is on track for $60 to $70 million in revenue this year. That is up from less than $20 million in 2024. Volume-wise, Garage Beer is on a tear. It is on pace to sell over 300,000 barrels worth of beer, and that would put them among the 12 largest craft breweries in the United States.
Yeah, that's an incredible trajectory, especially at a time when the overall beer category is struggling with headwinds like declining consumption, competition from spirits-based RTDs, and even GLP-1 weight loss drugs that are all cutting into beer demand. And Garage Beer is bucking the trend and doing it with light beer.
And that's where today's guest comes in. We're joined by Corey Smale, Garage Beer's Chief Creative Officer. Corey is truly a guest unlike any other we've had before. He's been central to shaping a brand that feels both nostalgic yet fresh, irreverent yet disciplined. They've done everything from a Goosebumps-inspired Halloween campaign to partnering with pro wrestling and niche sports like the National Ball Hockey League. His work shows how a challenger brand can move faster and smarter than big players. He really illustrates clearly how a startup brand's speed in marketing can be one of its greatest advantages.
Yeah. So for drinks entrepreneurs, this conversation is a fascinating case study into building velocity, using creative activations to spark community, and understanding how to balance both celebrity reach and an authentic brand voice.
So with that, let's get into it. Here's our conversation with Garage Beer's Chief Creative Officer, Corey Smale.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Is your drinks brand looking to start or expand import and distribution?
Whether you're seeking to enter new markets or you're unhappy with a current distributor and desiring a better fit, you should know about Swig Partners.
Founded by industry experts Eric Siegelbaum and Amy Troutmiller, Swig takes the guesswork and the legwork out of distribution strategy. Swig helps brands and distributors find the right fit for long-term relationships and sales success.
US-based importers and distributors should reach out too. With Swig, they can explore new products for free. And brands, you can get $100 off by mentioning Business of Drinks. Find out more at swigpartners.com/business of drinks. That's swigpartners.com/business of drinks. Corey, welcome to Business of Drinks. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So let's dive right into it. If you could tell me just a little bit about your background and how you came to be the Chief Creative Officer at Garage Beer. Let's start there.
Well, I appointed myself about a month ago, so that's how I became my current job. Before that, I appointed my previous job, VP of Marketing at Garage Beer. Before that, I was unemployed, so it's been going good. No, I mean, I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. I worked in advertising almost 20 years ago, and then I kind of ventured off and did my own thing for a while. I started a chain of donut stores somewhat, and then I opened a Chinese restaurant, and then I got into the beer business, and I've been in beer a while now, maybe close to a decade. And so some of the stuff I've done has been cool and made noise, and that's how I got connected with Andy early on. So Andy being the CEO of Garage Beer, and now we're just together forever, it seems like. So here we are.
Amazing. I'm curious, right? Like you've got a pretty varied background, as you put it, right? Like you were the founder of this donut shop, Strange Donuts. You
Yeah,
spent some time in beer. You were at Pabst.
yeah.
How, if any of those experiences, did those influence like your approach to what you do today at Garage?
I think it's like scale too. You start the donut store. I remember I started that as a Kickstarter project inside of my cubicle at an ad agency. So I remember like pressing the button, like launch the thing. And so that was we asked for $10,000. So like that's about as bare bones as it can get. And then like I worked at Pabst. It's like Stag is the brand I worked on, which is sick. It's like a regional lager brand, super historical, super cult status, very fun. And then PBR, obviously the monster. So it's just kind of kept leveling up. And then I feel like Garage Beer, though an upstart, our growth is crazy. You know what I mean? So the trajectory it's like we have a rocket ship on us. So it's a new brand, but we're already quite established. And so I say all those previous examples because I think those are like different levels of experience and expertise in a way that get you to the next one. And so it's cool that I've been able to reflect on my career from like a small upstart thing to, a big brand that's in 50 states, but that still runs, like I said, like a small upstart brand.
Yeah, like let's get into this rocket ship, Garage Beer.
Hmm.
Uh, for listeners who might not be familiar, can you describe the brand in a few sentences? What's it all about, and tell us a little bit about the product?
Yeah, it's beer flavored beer, light beer, just made better, than the competition. It's beer advertising and culture, the way that we all like talk about how it used to be and funny and like nostalgic. Like we're trying to make that now. We're trying to like be self-aware, irreverent. And our number one job, I always say, is to make the best light beer on earth. Our number two job is just to entertain people. So we have two beers, light beer, and then we have a lime beer too, and it almost does half of our business. It's super popular. That's really about it. It's just beer flavored beer, like I said, and our whole thing is just making a light crushable beer that you can have with some friends, or new ones or old ones, don't really matter.
Love it, love it. So the brand, as I
Hmm.
understand it, it dates back some time, right? It dates back 2018, and went through some fits and starts, kind of figuring things out. But in 2024, you all, have Jason and Travis Kelce, right? These incredible NFL stars come on board as majority owners. Like, what was that like? Were you part of that transition? How did that come about? What's the story there?
Yeah, the brand was started at a craft brewery in Covington, Kentucky called Braxton. It was a beer that they had. It was called Garage Beer, obviously. Andy, our CEO, saw that, wanted to kind of do something more with it, take it further and start a whole brand with it. So that's what we've done. And since day one, it's been me and about four other dudes, including Andy. So like we just kind of started the brand, I guess, about 3 years ago. And I think we were, for the first couple of years, we were in about, well, first year we were in like one state and then two states and then like 4 to 6 states. And we were growing pretty fast. I think we were like, right now we're definitively the fastest growing beer brand right now. But even at that time, we were growing quite fast, and that was all going well. And then enter, yeah, like you said, last summer, about 1 year ago, 2024, Kelsey's into the equation. That all happened because Andy had a previous relationship with Travis. They had done a business together a few years back, and that had exited and done well. And so they just stayed close, and had been friends for a while. And so when the garage beer opportunity came about, Travis was into it, and he was like, "I just want to get Jason into it too." It's the first thing that they've done together. So that's kind of a little background on how the brand got to where it's at, and then obviously with the big inclusion of the Kelseys.
Yeah, I'm curious, right? What do you attribute this kind of rocket ship like growth to, right? Like beer in general has faced a lot of headwinds. Like a lot of brands, I'm sure, are envious of the success that you all are enjoying, is the success of garage beer, is that just the simplicity of the concept? Is it the celebrity? Is it a combination? How, as chief creative officer, do you think about why this is a hit with consumers?
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's, all the ones you just mentioned. And then also, I think that I think we're the most maybe relatable brand in beer to our audience. I think we really are very conscious about the way that we connect with people. We still run this thing like a very DIY operation. We're literally about to embark on a new thing where people will cut the UPCs off of their garage beer packs and send them in an envelope for a sticker, because we've been doing stuff like that since the beginning. And it's very important even now as we get bigger to keep doing stuff like that. So I think also it's a great beer. Let's hands down. So you have that, you have some celebrity, you have some really like almost like cult status, like building this community, like through weird micro niche stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff brewing. So like, no, I guess all pun intended, I should say. But it's as big as I think, like, yes, like the Kelces, and then it's as small as wrestling figures.
Got it. Yeah, you mentioned kind of. Let me know if this is how I'm thinking about this. Like this is kind of a craft beer brand, but you are marketing this like it's a macro beer in 1995.
Yeah,
Like, and I can reference, right, some things you've done, right. You've done some really like cool campaigns, right. You've worked with the illustrator from the Goosebumps series of books,
yeah, Tim.
right. You're talking about this UPC thing. Like, how do you think about these really fun campaigns, and like what's the inspiration for you know harkening back to an earlier time when it comes to marketing?
I just want to like brands used to give more of a shit. I think brands were way more, even though like they're like, well, we're on social, we care. It's like whatever. Like I remember back in the day, like my dad would pull up to the liquor store by our house. It was a drive-through liquor store. They'd give me little Red Dog stickers. They give me Spuds McKinsey stickers. Like just little shit, you know what I mean? Like they used to give you little stuff, like I don't know, and it's like it's just a sticker, but it's like, yeah, but man, I bet you could get like I can get a loyal customer for like forever with the sticker. I shouldn't be giving these secrets away, but whatever. I dare someone to fucking hand mail 2,000 stickers over a couple weeks. Like it ain't fun.
I love it. I relate. Like, I remember being I don't know, 12, 13 years old, and seeing a pair of Spud McKenzie branded shoes at a garage sale, and like
Crazy.
those were what I wanted. I didn't want
Oh,
the
yeah.
Air Jordan.
No, dude. I mean, I collected Pepsi points. I was into all of it. I remember the March Madness Pizza Hut basketballs, like Land Before Time toys, Happy Meals. I mean, dude, I'm just a product of an era. Like, I was consumed by television growing up. I didn't have like any siblings until I was, almost 10 years old. I didn't have a lot of friends. I just watched a lot of TV. But I guess I got good at this because of it, maybe.
So, like, in that way, this kind of nostalgic thinking, or centered marketing and whatnot, like, is that garage beer's core demographic? How do you think about the consumer? Like, is there a garage beer consumer?
It's definitely everyone. And I would venture to bet that we have more female percentage drinkers than any other light beer brand, which is very cool. But it's also like it's dads, it's like kids like myself from the 90s who remember like when brands were funny and irreverent and like silly, that are like, now we are adults and we make purchasing decisions, and now we can make our own commercials. And so it's like, what's up, the frogs, like Real Men of Genius, all that came from St. Louis, which is where I live right now. And so I'm from, like all of the best commercials, the whole creative like aura of beer came from this city at one time. And I just think like here we are, like, you know a decade, a couple decades later, a generation later, like kind of doing it again. And so I think that it's for anyone that likes quality light beer and that likes good. I don't know if I should say good, engaging entertainment.
I want to talk about that engaging entertainment. So you did a campaign for the brand
Brumate. Yes.
Brumate. Okay, like Kumite.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Got it. So for our listeners, a competition death match, if you will.
And where you're fighting for the golden garage beer.
like I could see I don't know what I'll call a more traditional company saying like, this is fun, but how does this drive how does this drive consumers to our beer? Like, what is the impetus for a campaign where you're making a fun 15, 20-minute video, but, at the end, it's not saying like, here's where you can find our beer.
I think that we know where our superpower is, and that's like on people's phones, that's on social. And so we invest a lot of energy and dollars into that space and entertaining people in that space and creating content that they will organically then share or engage with. And so if that's our best channel, then I think we need to really understand it, and present content in a meaningful way. And so I think people genuinely are entertained by some of the stuff, which is so cool. Like we had a movie theater filled in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, and we all watched Room Tape. People were clapping and laughing. I was like, this is so just bizarre that we're doing this. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious, like to that end, like you mentioned, the consumer that's enjoying this is connecting with the brand, probably, primarily on their phone.
Yeah.
Are there any metrics that you tell you're on the right track with a campaign or in your role? Like what data, if anything, do you look at, or is it more kind of for you going by the gut? Like,
No. We use this software called Brand Watch that every month tells us that we're better than the biggest beer brands in the world at social media. Full stop. So if you look at like our engagement, impressions, awareness, all of that each month, I think last month, if you like the biggest three other domestic light beer brands combined, we were like 25% better than them because we're like just hyper online, just making entertainment, making jokes, making fun of ourselves the best. And then, yeah, having beers. Like,
are you of the mind, having worked for some larger companies and now kind of this smaller one that's growing really quickly, like, are you able to, maybe not having as large a budget, but being a smaller team, be a little bit more proactive, a little bit more engaged with things that are a little bit more contemporary? I'm thinking analogs here. I'm thinking, some of what Ryan Reynolds has done with marketing campaigns is like something happens and the next day, right? There's something
yeah,
online.
you got to understand, like, it's like bread. Shit's good for like 24 hours, sometimes less. And so you either tap in or don't. And then if you're like late to it, it's like, oh. So I think we tap in. Like this morning I woke up, I was like, I never would spit out garage beer. Like there's a whole incident last night during the football game, players spitting on each other. Like it's the first thing I thought of. Stupid, but whatever. So it's like that just happened, whatever. Okay. But then the rest of the day we have our own stuff going on. I just think it's like, if we can think of a joke that somewhat ties it to the brand that doesn't feel forced, like it almost has to feel natural. I always say to Lizard, she works under me, like we do all of the content, and I always say to her, I'm like, are you laughing out loud at this to yourself when you read it? And if you're not, then like it's probably not funny. So it's like, don't do it. Just like do something else.
Fair. Like, and to that end, like, I'm sure you've worked in previous roles with like agencies. Like, do you believe it's super critical that this is coming from in-house versus kind of outsourced? Or is there a world where, in a year you're engaging with, agencies to do some of the work because of how things are scaling? How do you think about that?
It's a good question. I think to each their own. I think that our voice will always be defined by our brand. Like it'll always be us. And so I could never see us like outsourcing any like community engagement, any like tweets, any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I think that's so us. And so, but I think as we get bigger, I think I'm open to like, oh, let's say we want to have a freaking festival next summer. Like I will definitely need an experiential agency or some sort of producer partner to like make that happen. Like that's a big idea. That's bigger than our 5-person marketing team can do. So I think we're open to it when it comes to like executing and like activating the brand. But I think from a creative standpoint and like a comms perspective, like I feel quite confident of the team that we have and our ability and our speed and our just like nimbleness that, I mean, yeah, we're giving it a good run right now.
Have there been for you any surprises, either incredibly successful campaigns that you thought would have just, been a blip, or inversely any things that you were, thought were a sure bet that were kind of flops? Any kind of surprises along the way?
I think we're like one. I think we're hesitant to like really work with too many influencers. Like we've done that kind of like it was okay. I think that, and it felt foreign even when we were sort of working it out. It's like a pay per post type thing. And it didn't do very well. And it was sort of very expensive. And I was like, man, we could have probably just like done something like on our own that would have felt more like us and done better. But we kind of just were like, oh, this will, I don't know. It wasn't really in our control. And so I think like what's very important is that we have a heavy hand, I should say, in the creative, even if it's a collaboration with someone, to sort of ensure that the output feels like us.
And like when it comes to engaging with consumers and creating content, how are you kind of thinking about the split between re-engaging and keeping engaged those who are already familiar versus bringing in folks who are new to the brand? Like, or is that not how you're thinking about it at all?
I think that it's like a carnival and the tent is open and everybody can come in at this point. We've, we were sort of like smallish and cult, and we're not like huge right now by any means, but like we're definitely just in comparison to maybe like 1 year ago, it's just like a lot different. I think there's two things. One thing I was talking to Lizard about earlier was like we have some content that we put out maybe like 2 or 3 years ago that like we just didn't have any followers. So like it just didn't do good because like no one saw it. And so I'm interested to like tap back into some of that stuff because like we showed this commercial for this thing called Garage Beef, which is like these hot dogs we made that were filled with beer. And like we showed it at the theater and everyone was like dying, dude. They thought it was so funny. And I was like, oh man, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should bring this back. Like, cause like now people are paying attention. But then there's probably only like so much of a timeline on that. So maybe we just will look at some of those things. And then everything else I think just needs to feel like it's not for everybody, but it's for anybody, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure. I'm curious if there's a particular perspective on channels or platforms when it comes to engaging on social media. Is there any place that you like the beer to be squarely in the center of, or are you kind of a generalist when it comes to social media platforms? How are you thinking about that?
I think we use like most brands that use like Twitter still, like that's your sort of like real time stuff. And then we also use Twitter as like a testing ground sometimes for like just content in general because it's like it can be kind of a throwaway if it doesn't hit, and then if it does, it's like, oh, okay, we should probably take that to like IG. And then Facebook, we didn't even have a Facebook until like last summer, and now I was like, oh, we should do that. And so I think we have like our Instagram set to like populate over to Facebook, which is like, like social media 101 or something. But I'm like, I don't know. Dude, we've just been doing a lot with like very few people for like up until now. Now we're starting to like maybe get some employees or something. So maybe we'll give it more personalized attention. Sorry, Facebook. But yeah, I would say that's probably the way we go with this.
I'm curious if like you were like, hey, we should allocate some resources, some time, some people, some money towards something, and there were other people in the room
Oh yeah,
that were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm
Wrestling,
not
dude.
quite sure.
Yeah, pro wrestling, wrestling figures. You already know what it is, dude. I've been on wrestling on the wrestling tip for pretty much my whole life, but from the brands, I mean, from PBR, we work with Matt Cardona and the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, and we just put Matt in like the latest Kelsey film. Like that one is easy, but that's like the micro niche shit, and like that's a whole other conversation. But like, I understand the power of an audience of 1,000, like, and 10,000, and even up to 100,000. And then I also understand like at like a certain number, it's kind of blasé. And so I'm really interested in getting into like those 1,000 to 10,000 person groups or like communities of people and being like, yo, we see you, like we're weird, like we're like this too, because I think I know you can, I should say, create like lifetime customers that way. And I don't look at everyone just as like a transactional thing or nothing like that, but I think it's cool. Like if you're going to make a purchase, like why not a brand that like gets the things you're into, or like maybe helps put on some like a show or like some content that you're into, or a merch, or who knows, you know what I mean? Like I just think that's interesting, and so we just try and play into those worlds as much as possible. There's a lot of those worlds that we're starting to like ball hockey is one. Like we're the National Ball Hockey League sponsor. which is not the NHL. It's the NBHL. And that but dude, like they got picked up on like when ESPN did the Ocho like a couple months ago, like because we were the sponsors of them, all of a sudden we were on like on ESPN too, like our logo at the bottom right, which we could never pay for. It just like happened that like they picked up on this niche sport, and that's what we're into. So I think that's like we're gonna build it that way for sure. And then I mean, right now though, dude, like we have some ads behind some baseball, like behind the dugout, on like some major league stadiums right now, on those like digital ones. So it's a little bit of both. You got to do that big awareness shit, but you also have to like stay super connected to your core and your community and keep building those.
Yeah, I'd question. I'm curious. Did the National Ball Hockey League even have a beer sponsor prior to you all?
Nope. We're the first, baby. We got an arena football team too, in St. Joseph's, Missouri, called the Goats. We own part of that team now, which is tight.
That's wild. I'm curious. Like, it sounds because you're kind of swerving where other people would go the other way. Like, do
Yeah.
you have any advice that you can share with other folks that like other small producers that you think might, you know, be applicable in helping them build an audience and helping them connect with their consumers?
I think just be yourself, dude, and like if you're gonna be funny, if you're gonna make fun of anyone, look in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like my style, my whole approach to content is just don't be mean. No one likes a dick. No one likes the mean guy, the cool guy. Like, don't be that dude. You know what I mean? And if you're not that guy, I think like I've done some crazy things in my career. You can read about them, but they weren't mean. Like they're just like, you're insane, dude. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but like not mean and not like devilish or nothing like that. And I always say that, like, go crazy, man. Like, life's short. If you believe in something, go all the way with it. Live your passions, have fun, punch up, dude. It's why not? You know what I mean? Like, go for it. But just don't be mean. I think if you're not being mean and you're being as wild and loud and crazy, like, hell yeah, dude, there's more room for that.
I'm curious. Like, so much of what you do is incredibly fun sounding. But is
Yeah.
there anything that keeps you up at night from a business perspective and, in this role?
Man, like I know that they have been for a while, but I really know right now, like the biggest beer brands in the world are watching everything we do. I mean, you can see it. Like they replicate it in a lot of their content. Even I'm not going to even name names, but like you can kind of see around what's going on. Sometimes on social, I'll poke fun at it, but like it doesn't keep me up. It's weird, but like it doesn't keep me up. No one can be better at me than me. No one can be better at garage beer than garage beer. No one can be better at you than you. And I think as long as we know that and lean into that, dude, like what's to worry about? I think if you're a brand that's worried about some other shit or some other brands, like, dude, just like I was saying earlier, it's like if the joke's not funny, write another one, dude. Like life is so short. I would much rather be creating than comparing ever. So I think that's our whole approach, man. I'm not really too worried about it. Like sometimes we get in trouble with the lawyers, for crazy ideas, but like other than that, pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty much it.
I'm curious, completely changing topics, but it relates to creative is AI is a hot topic. So much of what you do is grounded in, right? Like using a real illustrator, right?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
scripting a film, but like how, if at all, do you use or the team use AI professionally?
I will only use it maybe just like for like ideation, or I shouldn't say only. I'm not like, oh, I don't feel like I need to defend or support it. I know that's like a very hot topic issue and whatever. I'll speak on it. I think like I'll be maybe use it just to like ideate my thoughts, like almost like a personal journal or something in that sense. Like I don't have like, I used to use Evernote, and I would like write all my shit down, and I sort of use it like that where it's very like, I'm just in a silo, like creative, quiet space. And I'm almost like, it's weird, dude. I'm almost be talking to myself just to kind of like refine some of my own thoughts. But I couldn't imagine it being like the output of that'd be so crazy. It's like, here's our AI cover. I'm like, that's insane. Like, no, all my friends make all our commercials. All my friends do all our yeah, we're a human brand. But I think it's cool. I think if like I love the idea of being able to like use another tool to like tap into your own, thinking and your own spirit, and like there's something definitely interesting about it for sure.
You mentioned Brandwise. You mentioned using some AI to ideate, Any other kind of software tools that you kind of use day to day that you find yourself frequenting again and again?
Google Slides, God bless, dude. Google is I don't know how they've just made it free for like every agency in the world or every creative in the world to just like share their ideas. I mean, obviously they get all the free IP or at least a look at what's going on, but that's about it. Yeah, I think people think we're insane. We don't have like a social media software or nothing. We just do it on our phones. So
Love that. I love that. I'm curious, what are you excited about when it comes to the future of the brand? Like, where do you want to see your role in the brand in 2, 3, 5 years? Like, what have you got planned?
I really just want to keep bringing on people. Like our team is so small, but like in the people that we've brought on, they've just been such an amazing fit. Like Lizard has been with us for over 1 year now and was just like, that was the first hire I had. And we got lucky. It was just like such a great fit. And so I think I really just want to grow the culture internally. Like we do so much fostering of the community externally, you know what I mean? With like outreach and events and content and all that. I think internally I'm really focused on like, man, who are some really cool, like integral people, like interesting out there kind of thinkers that have very diverse backgrounds, and like maybe they could come and work with us or be a part of our team. I think that that's like personally for the next couple of years is a big interest because I think like the creative will come with that. I think the more people that we are like, hey, what is your vision? Like, what do you think about Garage Beer? Like you're going to get some really, really wild out there ideas when you allow people to sort of have a touch or feel with your brand. And so I'm very interested in just the people because I think everything starts with them.
And to that end, when it comes to talent, like, in a year or 6 months when you're looking to hire someone, like, are you looking at a portfolio? Are there particular questions? Like, how do you like to assess whether someone might be a good fit for a role in a growing company like Garage Beer?
I really think it's probably just very explicitly like I need a task directly related to the job. Like I remember when I was talking to her, I was like, send me like 10 of your best tweets and 10 of your best memes. You know what I mean? And she was funny, dude. I was like, and not only funny, but like I think she could already like I could see how she could already knew what the brand was about and could like kind of embrace the tone of voice. And so that was a very specific assignment for a very specific job at the time. And that's my interview style is like, yo, here's what the job would be if it's like you're doing it now. If you can trial someone like that, that's tight. And so I think that, and for a smaller company, like it's hard, it's risky to be taking on a lot of people and stuff. And so you got to like be strategic with that. So I like that a lot. It's just like, just show me what you can do.
I would completely embrace that. It sounds incredible, and it's not, an incredibly difficult lift, right? 10 tweets.
There's a couple ways you can do that though. You could just like do that all in Photoshop. You could make those though in real life, and like that's actually the shit that works a lot better. It's like when like an IRL meme. I mean, Lizard did about 1 year ago now, like a month into her job. She posted, she put the Garage Beer 12 pack in the passenger seat and a sign on the door said, "Don't worry, the AC is on the window." And like that has 100,000 likes. And I'm like, dude, like that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's a sign of like, whew. So I love that shit. And so I think that, yeah, you could just do some memes, but that's a meme too. And that's a hitter, dude.
Yeah. How, you know, has your role changed, as this company is growing
Uh-huh.
400% 500% year over year? You're on pace to produce, 300,000 barrels. I
Oh.
imagine that when you started, your role was considerably different than it is today. What's that evolution been like?
It was just a smaller audience, but we were saying a lot of the same stuff. If you go look at our tweets from 3 years ago, they sound the same. It's just maybe more people are hearing them now. And so I think that the audience is growing, the team is growing, but I think we're very good at remaining true to kind of how we got here. Because I think that's the only way we're going to continue to succeed is to be the best at being Garage Beer. And so if it's down to, like I said, physically mailing 2,000 people a sticker, like we'll do it. Cause I just think it's like very important that we like, that's the shit we were doing. And I don't want to be like, oh, that's what we were doing. I'm like, no, we're still on that. Like, yeah, we're way bigger now, but like, we're still doing that shit. And they're like, your guys are crazy. It's like, again, might be crazy, not mean though. So we're good. Let's go.
In wrapping things up, I'm curious, right? Someone listening to this who maybe is from this industry, but not in creative, or someone who wants to get into this industry, like, how would you, if at all, tell them, like, if you want to apply for a job in a year or two, like, here's what you should do between now and then. Like you should brush up on this skill or learn this software or learn this, or like, how do you think about what would prepare someone for a role at Garage Beer or any creative role at a drinks brand?
I think Google Slides is your best friend, man. I think like just getting good at making decks, like getting good at like visualizing it and accentuating your ideas is like so important. I've been able to do it with words in my career, which is helpful, but it's nice to have like a cool GIF, to like attach to it, or just have like a really crude Photoshop job that you did. Like, it's just nice to be able to be like, hey, because I know what it's like to be like, I have so much shit in my head right now. I don't even know how to, like the first sentence of all of these words. So here's like 3 pages as a PDF you can open on your phone.
I relate as someone who lays out their LinkedIn visuals in preview on a Mac,
Yeah.
like, where I get basically text and that's
Yeah.
about it. I,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time. I'm curious, in closing, if there's anything you can hint at that maybe we can expect from the brand in coming months or years. Like, where should we keep our eyes trained, or what should we get excited about when it comes to Garage Beer?
Just follow us on social. Everything we do is on the internet. Sometimes it appears on TV because it's crazy, but usually it starts on the internet. So it's just Drink Garage Beer on all social platforms and .com.
Amazing. Well, Corey, thanks again for joining us on Business of Drinks. It was a real pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Welcome back to Last Call. We are looking at an article today called The Death of Partying in the USA and Why It Matters by Derek Thompson. He is referencing a recent viral article that was published by The Atlantic by Ellen Cushing titled Americans Need to Party More. The data shared here is pretty staggering. Only 4.1% of households in the US report attending or hosting a party on a typical weekend or holiday. That is down significantly, about 50% since 2003. And the declines are the highest for the youngest people in the partying generation, the 15 to 24-year-olds. So Derek dives into why this is happening. And I was very interested by this because I'm reading we're hosting less. And meanwhile, I'm seeing a huge surge in hosting content on social media, meaning a lot of food and beverage influencers are leaning into this, like how to host a party. And it makes me think, especially with the timeline of this decline, did basically an entire generation of kids who are now adults not ever learn how to host a party because their parents were parents on the decline of hosting. And are we craving that? So I'm so curious to hear what you guys thought reading this article.
Yes, I found this article alarming, but reflective of what I actually see happening. It was truly surprising to learn that almost every age group has cut their party time in half in the last 2 decades. Like you mentioned, young people are the most impacted. So this data showed that Americans aged 15 to 24 spent 70% less time attending or hosting parties than they did in 2003. Now, think about that. Since that time, we have seen the rise of social media. We've seen online gaming. We've seen online gambling. And this really hits home for me because this is something we've just been debating so much on Business of Drinks and recently in our Bev Alc debate club with Rabobank that these days, younger people especially are just getting their dopamine hits in different ways. And they're substituting social interaction and the types of drinking with friends that we used to do. They're substituting that with solo behaviors that are very much focused on screens. So my thinking is, this really is becoming a spiral of self-sustaining dopamine hits that I equate to junk food. So it satisfies a momentary craving when you're scrolling or doing these online gaming things, but you're left feeling hungry because you don't have that IRL interaction with friends. And for the beverage alcohol industry, I truly do believe that this is having an impact on sales statistics, perhaps even more than health concerns.
Yeah, there were some real interesting ideas. I think it's worth pointing out that Thompson recognizes that this is not a new phenomena. 25 years ago, a pretty famous sociological text was published called Bowling Alone: The Collapse and Revival of American Community by Robert D. Putnam, who recognized, basically he said, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, people bowled in leagues. And now when you go to a bowling alley, you bowl alone. And this kind of this nature, this insidious nature of, call it loneliness, antisocial behavior has, increased over the last 25 years. Thompson points out that, you know, the usual suspects aren't surprising. They are things like work, which has been transformed by the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, I used to go out with colleagues from the office to happy hour. That doesn't happen when I'm working remotely. Parenthood, be it new parents drinking less because of fiscal pressure, because of emotional pressure, because of any number of factors, and screens, both for younger generations and older generations. And this is something, as Erica mentioned, we talked about. Further, the notion that some of the messaging around health has really resonated with younger generations more so than even older ones. Thompson points out that the share of 18 to 34-year-olds who say, quote, drinking in moderation is bad for your health has doubled in the last 25 years to 65%. So, these narratives around whether something can be enjoyed in moderation or not, particularly when it comes to alcohol, is something that, if kids are going to get together, if they're going to party, they might use alternative substances, whether they are controlled or otherwise, but not maybe alcohol. So tons of implications, not necessarily any one thing that someone might take an action to, other than the notion that we all recognize that drinking has a social aspect, and when that is missing, it is very hard to build a brand around the notion of singular enjoyment alone.
Absolutely. I would be remiss to not touch on one phrase that really stood out to me in Derek's article, which was not even phrase, just a term, communal labor. And this was in the section that's talking about how women entering the workforce and having salaried jobs versus just working within the home has changed the fact that they don't have the time or bandwidth to manage the family's social calendar. So a lot of these things are not being planned. There are less stay-at-home moms to plan community events and even just gatherings around communal labor. For example, I had a neighbor invite me over recently to help her move mulch. And some people might think that is an insane thing to ask somebody to do for you, but it goes hand in hand with something I've been seeing on TikTok, which is if you want a village, you have to be a villager. And I think that for a long time, people have relied on boundaries too much to build up these walls around themselves to protect themselves, and in return have actually, protected themselves a little bit too much, and we have become antisocial. There's also the glamorization of antisocial nature. There's a street brand literally called Antisocial Social Club. I think it sold 2 years ago for a lot of money. And so there's the glamorization of being antisocial. But I think that articles like this and the one in the Atlantic are just shining the light on the fact that this could be harmful to us, and it is. So, yeah, I don't know how to change that other than continuing to go move mulch for my neighbor when she asks. So thank you for joining us on the Business of Drinks, and give us a follow. If you're not following and you're listening, follow us. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Please hit like, share, star ratings, all of it helps us find new listeners. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover on the podcast, you can reach us in our DMs on Instagram and LinkedIn, or in our email at podcast@businessofdrinks.com. We look forward to hearing from you.